I always enjoy a randomly generated dungeon crawling game when it's done well, and there's a new one called Loot Rascals now out on the PlayStation 4. But is this game like finding that elusive loot, or should it just be left on a faraway planet? In Loot Rascals, you're playing as a character that's exploring space, going to different planets. You crash land on one, and your goal is to explore. You're going to find out all about the different wildlife and people that inhabit that particular planet, all while trying to explore it and make it area to area until eventually you make it to the end and move on to the next planet. The game has a different but very cool looking art style. In fact, probably my favorite part by far of this game is the art direction with everything. It's very much cartoony, but it stands out, and each character and monster that you get to fight throughout the course of the game all looks really well done. I wanted to keep progressing and hoping I survived to that next floor just to see what kind of crazy creatures and situations I was going to be put into. This game would actually work really well if it was translated into some sort of cartoon. As you arrive on each of the floors, you're not going to be able to see much around you until you start to explore. There are a few kind of like blue gates set up so that you know when you've exited through one of those, you now are in the actual world and enemies can start to attack you. So you're safe within that really small confines at the beginning, but then of course as you're going, more of the map starts to be revealed and enemies can pop up out of nowhere. With everything being random, you may get an easy enemy, or all of a sudden you're bombarded by some really tough ones even from the very get-go. Everything in the game, though, as far as equipment is concerned, is handled through a card system, and this is actually pretty cool. You basically have 5 different sets of cards that you're able to set up in your inventory, with one on top row and one on the bottom row. Every card you get will either be orange or blue, and there's some other types of cards that I'll get into in just a bit, but for the most part you have offensive ones and defensive ones. And it's not just put in the one that's going to give you the most offense, or the one that's going to give you the most defense. Each of the cards may also have other things included with them, such as if you place this card on an even number, you'll get an increase or a decrease. Or if you put this on a spot, the cards next to it will have an increase or a decrease. So every single card that you're placing into your equipment, you have to do strategically to try to get the most offense and the most defense possible. There are a few other cards as well, such as these borders that you can then place on a card that you have equipped, and this will give you special abilities such as the zap ability to hit an enemy from a distance with an electrical move, or a fire move, or being able to heal your character or even teleport your character to a nearby block. All of these moves, as long as you have that card equipped, you're able to use those special maneuvers, and they recharge based on each move has a slightly different faster or slower recharge, and once it has refilled, of course, you can use that ability again. And some of these you can use on the fly when you're in the middle of a battle against an enemy. Other cards will use tokens in order to activate them. The tokens are the game's money system. You have cards that you're not going to be wanting, don't need anymore, you can turn them into tokens. Now these can be used to activate these special cards, such as ones that will instantly teleport you to a random spot on the map, or will explode, causing a bomb-like effect to hit everything around it. You can also then go back to the main base. Every time you make it to a new floor, you have kind of a hub set up, a little campground set up, which has some little mini quests such as finding certain cards for some of the people there that will give you a little bit of a bonus, or you can also just heal yourself for a certain amount of tokens that increases every time that you end up using it. You can instantly go back to the base at any point by holding down the L2 button as long as enemies aren't around you. It's just going to cost you a lot of turns to do so. Like many similar games, you have a limited number of turns before things start to go awry on the floor or part of the map that you're currently on. The longer you stay on it, tougher enemies will eventually start showing up, and eventually you're just going to either have to get off of there or they're going to take you out if you're unable to find the exit in a quick enough time. The way that the battles are handled, though, is quite... I also enjoy the way that the battles are handled. You're not just straight up attacking enemies. When you get close to them, you initiate the combat. But whether or not an enemy attacks you first or you attack them first is based on the day and night cycles. Every 5 turns, it switches from day to night, and then 5 more turns night to day. And certain creatures, by the symbol over their head, will either attack you first during the day or will defend first during the day. And making sure you attack enemies at the right time of day will be essential in order to survive and have that advantage. I'm not gonna kid around though, Loot Rascals is a difficult game. There was a lot of times I made it right out of the campsite and was immediately taken out by enemies, and other times, of course, I was finally able to start building up a good setup for my character and start making it from map piece to map piece, eventually making it to the end of planets, facing off against bosses, which are really tough, and then moving on to the next world. And that's all because everything is so random. There are really tough enemies that you can face right off the bat on the very first section of map. Plus, there's the more advanced enemies that will sometimes randomly spawn as well. Basically, very similar looking to the enemies normally, but they have like a special name to them and of course have increased stats to go along with it. I will say, if you're into these kind of games, you're probably going to dig Loot Rascals, mostly just because it does things a tad bit different while still keeping that core kind of dungeon roaming mechanic. Also, with the game being similar in some regards to games like Binding of Isaac or Crypt of the Necrodancer with its random kind of layouts, there are also seeds involved, so you can get a good seed that you really like and then keep replaying that particular setup of maps, or you can get a seed and if you're able to do well in it, you can then send it to a friend and have them try to compete and see if they're able to complete the ones that you were able to or weren't able to actually finish up. When you start the game, you can either go right into a practice mode run, you can go into the standard mode where it picks a random kind of seed setup and layouts for everything, or you can enter that seed from the very get-go. From the technical side of things, everything ran smoothly. I didn't run into any major glitching, crashing, or slowdown of any sort. Loot Rascals is available on the PS4 for $14.99. It features a full trophy list, including a platinum trophy. Overall, if you're someone who likes dungeon crawling games, roguelikes, and you're looking for something that looks a little bit different, you're probably going to dig Loot Rascals. I love the whole little bit of retro sci-fi aesthetic that's kind of going on with the cartoony look, but the creature designs and just overall animations I think are really, really well done. In the end, while I'm debating between giving it a 7 and an 8, and since I don't do half scores, I'm going to give it a little bit of an edge just because I really do dig the art style. So, with that said, I'm giving Loot Rascals an 8 out of 10. But anyway guys, that's going to wrap up this review. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course I hope you enjoy.